والآن أحب أن أدعي للمحاضرات التالية مستر راندي كارلسون مدير تدريب بشركة European Space Imaging و European Space Imaging Middle East. With pleasure, we would like to introduce our next speaker, Randy Carlson, Director of Training, European Space Imaging and European Space Imaging Middle East, who will give us a presentation about the imagery interpretation.
Good afternoon. You hear me okay? It's a pleasure to be here. I have a lot of titles, but my titles mainly boil down to being a geographer, an urban planner, and I spent 11 years flying satellites, so I suppose I'm a rocket scientist. I was given a title to speak about, which is Imagery Analysis Applications for Military Use. Now, if I was to go into that, we could probably be here for about 10 days. So we're not going to do that. My Arabic is listed down to about 10 words, and so I'm going to show you a lot of imagery, because each image is equal to 1,000 words, and you will see for yourself what imagery does to help the military. I want to say one thing before I get started. I have taught about 30 of your officers in your military here in Egypt. I saw a slide earlier that showed two hands holding hands as friendship. And I would like to acknowledge that fact to these people. They have bridged a gap between myself and my country, the United States, and Egypt. And to them, I owe them a great deal of thanks, and I'll move on. So, okay, we're going to look at the different aspects of military use of satellite imagery. It comes down to humanitarian aid and support, air operations, change detection, shipyards, border monitoring, logistics and supplies, surface-to-air missiles, ocean and port operations, which includes naval, ground force monitoring, and camouflage and deception. So the first thing is humanitarian aid. Anytime there is something going on in the world, the satellites usually take photographs. And with this, you have the ability to quantify how many people are living in housing, how often the aircraft are on the ground. You can use the information to help your military to be prepared. Again, you have another large facility in Chad where it's all humanitarian support. It's in a hostile area where you have guard towers around the perimeter. But this United Nations support, this allows you to look at what's going on the ground and make your decisions. This is monitoring a coastal environment. This is in Port Sudan. What you see out here is a coral reef. And in that coral reef, you will find a sunken ship. So the satellites have the ability to reach down into the water about 20 meters and see what's down below. This is one of those images where there is no wave action, the sunlight is perfect, the atmosphere is no salt in it, and you get a nice shot of what's going on under the water. Monitoring borders, something that everybody's concerned, looking at a border and finding nothing going on versus looking at the border, finding that there's two checkpoints, there's traffic, you can count the traffic, you can monitor it, you can see if there's anything that's suspicious. This is an open border between Turkish Cypriots and the Greek Cypriots. There's a road that goes straight through, and there's no borders, there's no checkpoints, there's no nothing. So, for the policing of the state, for the protecting of your country, it's good to know that what your border looks like. Oops. Operator error. Okay. Okay, so here you're looking at the airport in Khartoum. You can be aware of what type of aircraft are on the ground. Are they military aircraft? Are they commercial aircraft? Do they all have all the motors on that they need? A lot of times you look at a country that you think has a lot of military equipment. When you look at the equipment, you find out half the airplanes don't have motors. So it kind of deteriorates the capabilities. This is in India. I'm going to look at 3 or 4 parts on the air base. And again, what you would not expect to find in India is heavy Russian patrol bombers and coastal bombers. So they have them. It allows you to understand what the possible threat is to your country and your region. Change detection. Change detection that's my pet. Change detection tells you what was going on in one day and what's going on the next day. And change detection is usually what preempts somebody doing something. So in this case, you have a certain number of vehicles on one time. The next time you look, the vehicles are gone. As an imagery analyst, I cannot tell you where the vehicles went. That is up to signals intelligence. That's up to your intelligence people in your military. But at least you can give them a heads up that something is out there, something's going on. They have moved their equipment. This is in Iran. This is change detection over the course of 10 years. In 10 years, they have downsized some of their ships. They have expanded their port. And they are busy expanding everything, actually. Here we have Djibouti, the port. So you have an ability to go in, count the shipping, count what's going on a given day, so that you're aware of what's happening. Weapons storage is always an interest to the military. What's the capabilities of your neighbors? So here you have open storage. Here's camouflage and logistics. You have an ammunition storage area that is well concealed. And believe it or not, there's jet fighters right here. This is in India. This is how they camouflage. They don't paint things with big blobs of paint or anything. They paint everything gray. The concrete here has been painted in such a way that the airplanes blend into it. Okay. In Libya, you have a surface-to-air missile site, and with this imagery, you can see that the missiles are on the launcher rails. You can see all the ready launcher missiles ready to be transported to be used. So this is an active SAM site when this picture was taken. It has radar. It has a barracks area up here. So for your Air Force to know that, that's important. This is in Yemen. Again, you have another surface-to-air missile base that is fully operational. There are missiles on all of the launching rails. This is the garrison where the people live. It's away from the city, but it's on the coast opposite Sudan. This is a Patriot missile site base, so you can see what Patriot missiles look like. They're all aimed to the north when there was conflict with Iraq. So you have a perfect picture of what's going on there. So Djibouti again. This is Bushahar, the naval base at Bushahar. And we're going to just look at some parts of it. This is where they're expanding the quay for the Navy vessels. Later on, all of this dirt work here, sand, will be removed, and there will be a nice new dock area here for their naval ships. So it's important to know that they're expanding their Navy forces, they're expanding their naval bases, and their presence in the region where you live. And so here they are. They have ships that they're working on, refurbishing, so you can monitor the progress of how they turn their ships around so they're operational. This is down in Bandar Abbas, and what's important here in this image is two things. There's a dry dock here, the floating dry dock, and there is a dry dock here. What's under here is one of their submarines, and they don't want you to see what they're doing, so they've covered up the submarine. So it's just got plywood and cloth over it, but this one is visible. It's a kilo submarine. It's capable of causing a lot of trouble. So it's good to know that it's not operational at this moment, and that this one is not operational at this moment. The country only owns 3 of them. So 2/3 of their submarine fleet is in dry dock. This is Tripoli. This is the naval base there. Back up one slide. The reason I picked this slide out was this is another slide where you can see down about 10 to 20 meters under the water. So the satellite imagery is capable of seeing a measurable distance under the water. This is their depths. The old Libyan Navy, when they had lost them all. So you can monitor their ships and where they're at. Ground force monitoring is always something of interest, whether it's rebels or paramilitary people or an organized military. This is a large base at Esfahan. The nice thing about the Iranians is they have absolutely all of their equipment parked outside in these large lots. For you that are in the military, you understand that when you take vehicles and you park them out in the middle of the desert where it's 35 to 40 degrees Celsius, over a long period of time, all the rubber seals go. So the vehicles and the armament becomes not quite usable. So they have all of their equipment out on, that's where they park it. They don't park anything under a shed. Of course, this is the headquarters of the base. The headquarters has to have a helipad. The general can fly in and out because brigadiers like to travel by air. He has his headquarters building here, his communications. And down here you have all of the equipment. The equipment can be measured. You can find out what type weapons most likely they are. So you can build up an estimate of what their table of equipment is or their TOE. And then you can determine what their possible threat would be to you. This is an American deployment at El Zver, and this is heavy artillery on a mound. It's pointing outward. This is where all the troops live. So, different applications. Camouflage and deception. We're going to look at 2 things. Again, this is in India. I think India has the mastery of camouflage in the world. And this one's just too good to be true. This is an airstrip out in the middle of an agriculture area in Iraq. This was designed to be invisible to the eye. If you're a good analyst, you can pick it up. And this is in Pakistan. They went through all the trouble to paint those fuel storage tanks, but I'm not sure what good it does. So when I teach analysts anywhere in the world, I teach them to look for what looks wrong, look what's out of place, and don't be afraid to tell your superiors in your chain of command what you see. And that's it for me. I think I got this in under 20 minutes. That's it.